In terms of, we talked about kind of setting boundaries, and one of the chapters in our book, and I know this is a key theme in yours too, Angie, is about finding balance, but also kind of knowing how to nourish ourselves. And so really a question for all of us is it possible, given what we know about in the UK, the education system, the extrinsic pressures, etc., is it possible for teachers and senior leaders to find that balance between doing a good job and also having a life outside of, you know, teaching and leading a school? What do you guys think?
Well, it has to be. It has to be, because we are, you know, Mary Myatt's words, human beings first, teachers second. We're not going to work all our lives. Our families and our loved ones aren't going to hang around while we ignore them evening after evening. Or in my case, over 1 year, I didn't see them from Monday to Friday. So the short answer is yes, absolutely. It has to be. And it comes back to that responsibility to oneself. At the moment, the caveat here is that it is exceptionally hard. Well, for everybody working full-time in schools at the moment, because people are in a state of hypervigilance, unpredictability, no one knows, you know, and it really is, you know, you mentioned life or death, Adrian, it really is life or death. You know, who's going to contract COVID? Will the school next door have to close down? So at the moment, I would say the situation is exceptionally difficult, but even then, or especially now, actually, finding that time, you know, Adrian, you talk about half an hour a day, or that time, or just walking the long way around the school and looking up at the sky, look up, you know, that wonderful advice, look up if you're having a bad day, walking the dog, you know, giving yourself that accountability of getting a dog. So the dog insists on being walked, because you can't not walk the dog. But Angie, you were about to say something.
Yeah, I mean, I think I agree with you, Emma. I agree with you completely. And I, just going back to something you were saying about teachers, I think we are a group of people who love to serve. So we love to work. And often it's interesting when you look at teachers who no longer teach, because they take the same patterns of work into the other things that they do. And I'm speaking as someone who has taken the same patterns of working into the things that I do now. So it is often about the job with education, with teaching, but it's not always about the job. And I think there again, there's that bit of personal responsibility about how much of this is about me. How much of my time do I spend away from my family still saying, I need to do this meeting, I need to do this thing, I need to do this next thing, this next thing, this next thing. And you know, when I look back now, I can see that there were times when actually the job wasn't the thing. It was my desire to keep working and to keep getting it right and to keep serving and to keep pouring into this kind of black hole of things that needed doing. That was the key there. So I think that's one thing. And I think the other thing is knowing that there are seasons for school, and there are seasons also within the system. And I feel like I've worked in times when things have been a lot easier in the system. Generally, there felt like there was more space, and I guess there's a bit of rose-tinted spectacles there as well. But there are seasons, and we have been in a season of austerity. We're in a season of incredibly challenging health and austerity kind of compounding each other at the moment. And if we can kind of step back enough to say that this is also seasonal, and within that we have schools that are working through particular seasons. We've got schools that are chasing an RI judgment, schools that are chasing a good judgment, and we've got other schools that we might find ourselves in, or other settings that are not in that season, and in which there might be a bit more of an opportunity to breathe. Of course, there'll be other things that school is chasing, but sometimes I think we can look at the system and say the whole system is this one thing, and actually that's not quite true. There are bits of it that are challenging for particular contextual reasons. And so finding balance is also about finding balance within the setting or the season that you find yourself in, and knowing that if you are in a school that is chasing RI, that you need to come to some resolution that that's the season of the school, and there will inevitably be a number of challenges during this particular season. And with that in mind, how can you find the balance? How much can be done? You know, you talk about the 80-20 rule in your book, I think, and you know, deciding on what the main thing is. How much can be done in those situations?
Although I will say schools chasing RI are some of the best groups of staff I have ever worked with. On a serious note, you know, having gone into some of those schools and going through, you know, that journey metaphor again, going through that journey together and looking at those staff who've stayed for 5, 10, 15 years. And actually can be, depending on who you are and this, I suppose, the season you're at in your life, can be hugely fulfilling places to work compared to the school that is panicking over maintaining its outstanding.
Yeah.
I think that's really interesting. You talk about seasons, Angie, because something I reflected on in my first few years of teaching was that typically around this time of year, actually, probably November, so after half term, I would just feel a bit flat. I would feel like my teaching mojo had gone, my enthusiasm for the job would wane. And I remember thinking, oh, I'm not cut out for this, because I'm letting the kids down, because my heart's not in it. I don't really care about planning decent lessons. You know, I just was flat. And then actually it was probably over Christmas when I had that time and that space to kind of step back. I realized that actually pretty much every year, even when I was in music publishing, I would go through this period of flatness, of just like, I guess it's linked to the seasons more generally, just like a feeling of wanting to retreat and to hibernate and to conserve energy, which when you think about it as a species, it makes complete sense. So I think it's really, it comes back to knowing yourself. And so now I'm 10 years into teaching, I kind of learn how to read the signs that, okay, my motivation is waning right now, but this is kind of natural for this time of year. And what do I need to do to kind of take good care of myself? There's a few things as well, I think, with finding balance. And I think this is where all of the themes that we've talked about so far come together. So that purpose, like, you know, when my motivation was waning and I was feeling a bit flat, okay, why am I here? What is the most important thing? If I am going to conserve some energy, which might mean doing less than I normally do, what is it that's going to make the biggest difference right now to me and my students? So I'm kind of taking care of myself by reducing the number of things that I'm doing and the commitments I'm making. It links to perspective as well, as in what's the bigger picture? Okay, when a global pandemic, like you said, Emma, it literally is a life and death situation. We have no idea if we contract this virus, whether we will be asymptomatic, whether we'll get mild symptoms, or whether we will literally be intubated because our bodies just can't cope. None of us know. And I think we need to step back right now and just see the bigger picture. Like, the most important thing in schools right now is safety, and it's mental health and well-being, and then it's learning, like in that order. I mean, if you ask me, it should probably be in that order anyway, but that's a whole nother discussion. And so we just need to like not fall into our old ways of behaving, which is, it's about progress. Okay, oh, GCSEs are happening next year. Okay, what do we need to do? How can we catch up? Where are we going to spend the money? You know, it's not a new normal. This is abnormal. This is completely abnormal what we're going through right now. And we just need to kind of see the bigger picture, conserve our energy, and play the long game. The long game is, and this is how it links to purpose, okay, I'm here to make a difference in young people's lives. I want to continue doing this for a long time, which means I cannot keep going at this tempo because I will burn out. And so we have to like then reflect on, looking at our agency, what can I let go of? What can I stop doing? What can I spend my time on instead? And there are things that we can control, small things. We can control our sleep hygiene and routines. We can control what we put in our mouths, our diet, our nutrition. We can control the amount of physical activity we get. All of these things are within our control, and the things that nourish us. We can control the people we pick up the phone to and have a good old chat with, that we go for a socially distanced walk with. All of these things that nourish us, but it really comes back to knowing yourself, knowing what works for you, and then investing your time and your precious energy in those areas that are going to give you the biggest bang for your buck.